Okay, health care. Boy, one of the top concerns for Senator John McCain as he battles it out in Washington.
Yeah, he is up for re-election and his campaign is getting a lot of national attention. Ron is live with Senator McCain right now in the newsroom. Ron?
Okay, you guys, he's been a fixture in Arizona politics since the 1980s. In fact, I covered his very first campaign for Congress almost 30 years ago. You remember us walking the district a long time ago.
I haven't aged a bit, but you've aged terribly, Ron.
Hey, well, let's talk a little bit about this election. I mean, the latest polls that we've seen show you a few points ahead of your challenger, J.D. Hayworth. He hasn't caught you, but he seems kind of close, at least in these polls. Now, why do you think that is? What are the voters saying to you?
Well, the voters are saying that they want me to earn their vote again. Every campaign I've been in has been a tough campaign, a hard campaign. Running for the nomination of the Republican Party was a pretty tough campaign, and so they want me to work hard, earn their vote, and I'm very confident. By the way, that same poll's been up and down, but what we have to do is work hard, get a grassroots organization going, and earn their votes. And I love campaigning.
And speaking of the grassroots, it seems like you're both kind of angling for the Tea Party vote. You know, people who are really kind of angry about the growing government influence in our lives. You bring in Sarah Palin. They love her. He brings in Joe the plumber. But let me just ask you, in which ways are you more qualified for the conservative vote?
Well, on spending. I mean, the fact is that J.D. Hayworth was an earmarker, pork barreler, defended it, attacked people like Jeff Flake who fought against earmarks. And, you know, who's the conservative here? You know, I've fought against earmark and pork barrel spending. I was not elected Miss Congeniality in the Senate because of doing so. And he supported all his earmark, got mixed up with Abramoff and luxury suites and the Capitol Center and all that kind of stuff. Who's the conservative? I think it's pretty obvious. That's why the Citizens Against Government Waste has endorsed me, and a lot of other organizations. But look, I take nothing for granted. I'm working hard. I was in Lake Havasu yesterday in Springerville, and I love the campaigning.
I know you do that. Now, let's talk about health care, because that may be what the whole campaign really is going to hinge on come in November. Now, when Sarah Palin, you know, some of the language she's been using, death panels, deciding who lives or dies, or don't, what was it, don't retreat, reload, that kind of thing. As somebody who has stood for a certain kind of level of, I don't know if you want to say decorum, but just a certain level of maybe language or standards on Capitol Hill, does some of this language go too far?
No. I'm sure that there are elements and people always who will go too far, okay? But look, there was signs about George Bush being a murderer during the Iraq War, during when President Bush was look, what Sarah Palin and the rest of us are doing is the same language that we have used. There are targeted states. There are battleground districts. There are. This is, I think, liberal media hypocrisy that they would attack her for having a target on her website on a particular congressional district and say that's inflammatory. There's no place for violence. There's no place for this kind of rhetoric. But to accuse us after the things that were said about George Bush and the Iraq War, call him a murderer and all that, and a war criminal. Well, look, we want the rhetoric to be civil, but the passion and the anger out there is well justified. And this is the biggest takeover of the private sector in history, this health care reform that's just going on. We fought it night and day. And it's the first time in history there's been a major reform against the will of the majority of the American people.
Sure, and the latest polls, even the last few days, show they still, despite any efforts to sell it, the majority of people are against it. But
could I say that Governor, I know we haven't got much time, the governor of Mississippi the other day on one of the Sunday shows said the American people are still against it after the biggest, wettest kiss in history from the liberal media with the president's success. I thought that was a great line.
All right. Although I wonder if it may serve as a rallying cry for Republicans in November. It may even sweep them back into power. But once these things go into effect, can you really realistically remove the donut? I mean, change the donut hole again? If kids, for example, get on coverage now because they were excluded before because of pre-existing conditions, now they're on, you can't really take them off again.
No, but we want to repeal and replace. We had a proposal to take care of kids with pre-existing conditions. We were to even allow someone to stay home at age 26, although I'm not sure you and I as fathers would really, really want that.
Yeah.
But we had alternate proposals that would take care of these issues without a massive government takeover. For example, medical malpractice reform. For example, going across state lines to get the insurance policy of your choice. Ours was to attack the cost of health care, not have a massive government takeover.
Okay, we're just about out of time.
Oh, no.
Let me very quickly ask you about border issues and what is your solution? I think a lot of people think the government becomes a laughingstock when they want to fund a so-called virtual fence instead of just building a fence. Do you favor the path to citizenship? What is your solution?
My solution is that there's an existential struggle between the government of Mexico, the drug cartels, and that violence, I predicted for 3 years, is going to spill over into the United States of America. We have to build a regular fence, and we also need to use the latest technology. But we need the actual fence, but plus a virtual fence. The last contract has collapsed, and we're having an investigation of that in the Homeland Security Committee. But before we do anything, we have to secure the borders. The whole environment has changed, Ron. It used to be this problem with illegal immigration. Now, it's violence. Thousands of people have been killed on the other side of the border. 3 Americans were just killed in Juarez, and of course this case, this tragic case down on our border. We have to send the National Guard to the border, something that John Kyle and I have advocated for years.
All right, Senator, good to have you in today. I don't know if spending a day in Phoenix is as much fun as going to Lake Havasu in Springerville. It's always nice having you in the studio.
Thanks, Ron. Great to be with you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
And you both haven't aged a bit, just so we set that straight.
Okay, all right.
Okay, 7:24. Should we send it over to Andrea?
Yeah, let's see what's going on traffic-wise.